Welcome to Moss Marketing Mondays, aka the M3 Podcast. Brought to you by Moss Marketing Group, bringing you everything marketing every Monday. Stay tuned for marketing tips and tricks you can use today. The M3 Podcast, marketing knowledge to help you succeed. Let's get started.
Welcome back to the M3 Podcast. This week, myself, Dre, Ricky, and Ammon Dorsey. Ammon works for Celebrity Home Loans, practically running your own business as a mortgage officer, and also training. So Ammon has a very wide array of stuff that he does. Repertoire of stuff that he does. And thank you for being on today.
Thank you for having me.
It's always a pleasure. So, Ammon, I know your story comes from... Actually, I don't even really know the whole story. I've known you as a trainer for how many years now? It's been a while.
Since I've known you?
Yeah.
3 or 4, I'd say.
Yeah, at least. Yeah. I think COVID year was a minus, so I'd say 4 or 5.
Whatever you want to say about COVID, it's all good.
Yeah, but... So I've known you from the years that you were a trainer at Norterra, as you went to Genesis, and now evolved on into doing home loans.
Yep.
So what does the Ammon Dorsey story look like?
You want the whole story?
I want the whole story. We want it all.
So I started working out when I was younger, 14, 15. You know, the typical parents buy you a gym membership, buy you a few training sessions. And then I was going to school for automotive technology. I was at Longview for a little while, and that was just a realization that that's not what I want to do, you know, for various reasons. And then I was around 17, 18. The gym I was working out at, Anytime Fitness, something happened with the manager at the time, and the head trainer approached me and asked me if I'd be interested in that position because he thinks I'd be a really good fit. And I took a little bit to think about it because I would have to leave school, you know, to take on a full-time position. I had never worked full-time at that time before. So I took that on. That was 2009. So I guess I would have been 18, 19.
Yeah.
And that's where it started.
Started the fitness career in 2009 at Anytime Fitness.
Yep.
I did not know you in 2009. I was in high school. Nah, wait. I don't even think I was in high school yet. Somewhere around there.
Well, while Dane's doing the math, was that the Anytime in Liberty, or where was it at?
Yep. It was where Priority Care Pediatrics is now.
Okay.
So across on 291, that's where it used to be.
Perfect. So did you grow up in Liberty?
I grew up in Kearney.
Oh.
So
Represent.
I graduated in 2008.
So, yeah, we're 4 years
He's
difference.
trying to do math again.
He's trying to do
I mean, I'm
math
really
again.
good with all math except for, like, years. Years just, like, because there's, like, weird times in years where it's, like, graduate or not.
Yep.
So, yeah, that's just, we're just going to nix that whole thing. But, so, how long were you at Anytime Fitness?
10 years.
Oh, dang, that was a long time.
Yeah, that's when, so I started out with just management for a year or two, and then I got certified to be a trainer. So I was training and managing, and then it got under new ownership, and they acquired some more Anytimes. So then I was put in charge of 8 of them total.
Oh, wow.
And then I was still training before and after my, you know, time, if you will.
So you were like full-time trainer, but then also doing the head trainer roles.
I was doing gym management role.
Oh.
Yeah. So working 60 hours a week has been my norm. So this transition's weird because I feel like I'm not working as much.
It feels like you're part-time now.
Yeah. Early retirement.
I feel like anyone that goes from like 80 hours a week and then they cut it back, they're like, you're saying I work 40 hours
Yeah, this
a
is
week?
it. I feel like a part-time job.
Yeah, I could do 2 of these.
Yeah.
Give me 2.
Exactly. So just conditioning myself, I guess.
So, being at Anytime for 10 years, that was what?
Bro.
We got math going on again.
I know.
It's
If we
about
go to
2019.
9 to 19, though, when did you? I feel like I knew you in 19 at Aurora.
That's where I went to. Was
In
Aurora,
19?
1920. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So in 2019, you end up at Aurora.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I end up meeting you.
Yep.
And I think we became friends because, I mean, I feel like you practically ran the place in a roundabout way.
I was there a lot.
You were there a lot, and
Yeah.
I feel like management kind of came and went, and
Yeah.
you were the constant. And what was that experience like there? What did you get from being in Aurora different to Anytime? Or did you get anything from there?
I would say the first thing would be it took me out of management. So I was just my own person. And then I would say the biggest thing that it gave me was the confidence that I can sell myself. Because when I was doing the management position, I would get a salary, and then I would do training on the side. But when I went over to Aurora, it was just straight commission.
Off of all training.
Mm-hmm. So I left that position and went over there day one, no income.
Yeah. How many people did you pull from your Anytime career to Aurora when you went there?
I don't remember. It's been too long, but I remember it was pretty substantial.
Yeah. I've seen the whole transaction happen again from Aurora to or to Genesis now.
Right.
And
makes it sound like I jump around jobs and like give the middle finger to everybody as I go.
I think what speaks more volumes than anything is the clientele that stayed with you through those jumps.
Right.
And I know we were talking about before the podcast even started about the huge jump that came with you when you went to Genesis. What does that look like on that jump?
What do you mean? What does it look like?
When we were talking about when you stepped over, how many people followed you? That we were talking about that was a gym I was working out at every morning. So now all of a sudden I'm coming in every day and I'm seeing people wearing Ammon Dorsey hoodies. And I'm like, hey, that person just came from North Terre, like as they're coming in. And you saw that huge shift, mm-hmm. and as a company to find that person to take on, that's huge. So what did that look like on that transition over with everyone following you?
It felt good, like I was doing something right. But in the end, I'm just being myself.
Yeah.
And people followed me. So I don't mean to sound so vague, but that's just how it is. I didn't reach out to people and say, you need to come over here. This is better. This is whatever. People knew the situation on both instances and decided that I was a better, asset, if you will, to follow.
I think that just leads into you being honest with the clients you had.
Yeah.
I know our dad actually worked out with you for quite a while.
That's how I got into the mortgages, actually.
Yeah, and
so our dad, Dirk, works with Ammon at Celebrity Home Loans. Dirk owning the Liberty branch.
Right.
Just kind of a whole backstory on the whole thing about how it all kind of came to fruition. But
well, it's a funny story because I was working at Aurora. I remember I was sitting at the computer and your dad just comes up and he sits right next to me, like almost awkwardly close.
Yeah.
And he comes over and he's like, "This is what I want." And he just goes on how he wants to, lose body fat, whatever. And he wants to see me 5 days a week, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Like he knew exactly what he wanted, which is the best kind of client because he just kind of do.
He's
what they
always
say.
very sure of everything he wants. He is,
yeah, even if he's not, he is.
Yes.
And that's when I started with him. So I trained him for over a year, 5 days a week. So I spent a lot of time with him. And at the end of it, I just asked him what it would take to work for him.
And I mean,
that's the whole story.
Yeah. And it's crazy watching the growth of you through all that. And it comes to that confidence of yourself, that you have that confidence that everything you're going to do, that you're going to succeed at. And when that comes into the fitness space, I think there's something that kind of correlates with that, is when you have those people that you're training, that you're working out with every day, that you're doing those things, I think there becomes this level of accountability. And with that accountability, what was taught to you through the fitness space has led into every other adventure that you've taken in life.
Are you doing the accountability on myself or holding other people accountable?
Both. I mean, I think there's two sides to that it's holding yourself accountable to those people, then also holding those people accountable to what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, I would say to that.
That's a pretty loaded question.
That is a loaded question. It's making my brain spin a little bit. But the accountability aspect is huge because fitness is such a basic thing. Like the human body wants to move. We don't want to sit still. And our society and how we have everything designed is designed against that. And so when people move, they feel better. And a lot of times it's easier not to move. So having someone to hold you accountable for that is that definitive factor. And I think one of the biggest reasons why people follow me or any other trainer for that matter is when they're not with you, they realize that accountability is gone, and you built that trust with them and everything. And that trust and that accountability is all, you can move that around to any industry.
So with that going into the mortgage space, how does that correlate being the same in the mortgage space?
Just being myself.
I think the way the two correlate is you see people at their lowest when they go into the gym, people just starting out, and those people don't know what they're going for, and you help guide them to what's best for them.
Yeah.
And that's what, like I said, what I was going back to with our dad, you help guide him. He has a bad back. You know exactly how to guide him, how to work him out the way he need to be worked out. Same way when you go into a home loan. A lot of people, they just know, I want to buy a home. There are many different ways of buying a home. As we all know, some of us know, not everyone. But you sit there and you look at it, you got conventional, you got FHA, you got USDA. You look at all of those, and the average person doesn't know what's right for them.
Right.
And that's what they got you for, and that's where I think you are held accountable to picking what avenue is best for that individual.
Right.
And help guiding them down the road of being like, hey, this one, I know you're putting a little more money down, but if you look in the actuality over the long term of 30 years, you actually save over $50,000. They're like, what? Like, it's just right there, but I think that's kind of what you're leading into. That's
it goes straight into the fact of you caring for people has translated so much across, and I very much correlate this too with Ricky, with being in Moss Marketing Group. Even though that he stepped into a completely different realm, when he goes and speaks to people, you can tell that his fitness background and dealing with people all day, every day, has correlated so much positive into our company. And well, on that fitness side, we haven't been in that space. You guys both have. You can probably also tell from the cameras that you guys both have and we haven't.
We've been on the side of being trained, not actually training.
Yeah, you know what it's
so
like.
what on that side of everything, what does that look like from a trainer's aspect? Ricky, what would you say on all that?
Yeah, so obviously when you're working, it doesn't really matter what the industry is. If you're working with people all day, every day, and a lot of times, at least on the gym management side of things, not so much personal training, but I guess the same would kind of apply there. When you're meeting new people for the first time every time, the energy that you have when you interact with them is huge. And a lot of times that's going to dictate the way that conversation goes and also the way that they feel. So the gym that I was at is kind of not like a hardcore bodybuilding gym, but it could be a little bit intimidating when somebody is just getting into working out and they go in there for the first time. So if you make them feel comfortable by being their friend and talking to them and actually caring about what their goals are and what they're in there for, you're going to gain a friend in that, and they're going to trust you. And that's huge. And it's the same thing whether you're selling something, or I would assume, obviously I haven't been in the home loan industry, but I would assume it'd be the same way in that, because they're probably going into that process a little confused, especially if they're a first-time buyer. And by listening to what their needs are, that's massive.
Absolutely. I think one of the biggest things that I always remember in my head is my mentor way back in the day told me you have to be a chameleon. So regardless of what your personality is, you have to be able to mirror the other personality. And that's not disingenuous. You're still being yourself, but you kind of move your energy up and down and dictate what you say based on the reaction to certain
You're
things.
telling us our dad didn't tell you that? Because he's been preaching that to us since we could walk.
Because it's the truth.
It really is. And that's, I think, from the gym space to that space, I think you just learned a different level of customer service that a lot of people aren't accustomed to. And it's
a people business. I mean, you build those relationships and the business comes second. They may be in front of you for a mortgage or fitness training, whatever, but you're building that relationship around you.
Yeah.
Because a gym is a gym is a gym. It's just four walls, but
that's why when you left a gym and went to a different gym, all those people followed you.
Yeah.
a very large number of people follow.
So we can't have somebody on the show that has the knowledge base that you have without at least asking like a fitness question. So if you were to summarize, what's the biggest thing that holds most people back in their fitness journey?
Want the cliche answer?
Let's do the cliche and the actual one, I guess.
I want Ammon Dorsey's answer.
I mean, yourself. That's the cliche answer, but it's also the truth. I mean, you put all those roadblocks in your head, whether it's a financial goal, a fitness goal, or anything. You limit what you think you can do. Not to get too philosophical with it, but I really think it has a lot to do with people's upbringing. You see people that were raised a certain way limit themselves by what they've seen. People that have raised by someone, just as an example, that has excelled, they're going to more than likely excel themselves. So I think people just hold themselves back more than anything.
I would totally agree with that.
Yeah. It's like an epiphany when people realize, I mean, I can't tell you how many people that I've trained that can't squat or can't do this or can't do that or can't do that. And it's just, they just don't think they can.
That's a word that's not allowed to be used at Moss Market.
I just can't seem to make it 7 days a week.
Yeah.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, the C word is not used around here. Is I feel like you can do anything that you're willing to put your head after, you can do.
Yeah, if you will put in the work, you can do it.
And I think that's where a lot of people fall short, is the work side of it.
It's hard.
Very hard.
I think when you go into that mentality of their upbringing, I think there's also that on a business side of someone, what an individual sees their self-worth as.
Oh, absolutely.
So a lot of people, I think we talked about this on our first podcast, when you sit there and you've grown up and you've thought, I can only make this much. So say if you're a trainer and you're like, I need to make X amount of money. You hit that X amount of money in the first, say, 4 months, and then you cap yourself because you're like, I've made it.
Even if it's subconsciously. And one of the biggest things, as you guys can attest to in sales, is thinking with your own pocketbook.
Yeah.
You know, if you're just going to training, if you're trying to sell yourself for training, and in your head, $200 a month is a lot, you're going to have a really hard time selling that. Same thing with mortgages. I mean, if someone wants to spend a certain amount per month, and in your head, you're like, man, that's way out of my reach, you're going to have an issue.
So that's
being confident.
Yes.
Our dad's always told us that everyone's castle is a different size.
Yeah.
That no matter what, everyone's castle is a different size. And when we got into selling cars, we were selling cars in college with no money. There was a point where I didn't have $10 to buy ramen noodles in college. And
Ramen ain't that expensive.
And no, I was riding a scooter because I had a truck I couldn't put gas in. And I'm riding a scooter to Walmart to buy ramen noodles with the last $10 I have to my name.
But you had a truck sitting there
that I couldn't put gas in. That was something I
worked. Your priorities.
You can't take it to the dealership and get money.
Which
you can't drive
that
it
whole thing like prospered in high school when I had summers off. I could work. I could do these things. When I was in college, I was going to classes summertime, normal class time, first semester, second semester. I was running summer, and then I was going home to work on the weekends. And when we were going home to work on the weekends, I was making enough money to put gas in my truck to go back and forth, but really not a whole lot more. So all of a sudden I was, once again, riding a scooter to Walmart to get ramen noodles and stuff, going to class all the time, coming home, selling cars on the weekend, and I'm supposed to go out and pencil somebody at a $1,100 monthly car payment. I'm like, oh my God, how does somebody pay for this? And I'm like, and you're psyching yourself out in your head, but then now when you look back on it, I'm like, these people gave a credit app and they made $35,000 a month.
Yeah, they expected that payment.
They knew what that payment was way before they walked in.
Right.
They were surprised it was so low.
Yeah. But most of the time people psych themselves out on someone else's castle size. Now all of a sudden, like, I would have absolutely zero problem going out and giving that number, but I'm at a way different point in my life than I was at that time. And that perspective all the time that we were talking about earlier today, that when you're giving out pricing, when you're giving out all this stuff, that most of the time at that level, people understand what that pricing is supposed to be like. Yeah. And I just thought it was crazy. At that time, I didn't have $10, and I'm like giving out this. I'm like, I would give anything to have their car payment, just one of them.
He did, at one point, Dane did give me $20 because I didn't have enough. I had to come back on the weekend. I didn't have enough gas money to make it home. Dane's like, I'll give you $20. He's like, $10 for gas, and then this is when gas was like, I don't know, $2, so that could make it home. And I spent $10 on food, and the other $10, there was a poker tournament. I'm like, I went and gambled the $10. And the next day I give Daniel $20 back. He's like, "Did you not eat last night?" I'm like, "No, I went to the poker tournament." He's like, "You really gambled the money I gave you to get home." I'm like, "Yeah." I'm like, "I actually made $100." At that point, I'm like, I'm balling.
Smooth.
The college life was rough. It was
Sounds
rough.
like it,
We
yeah.
made it through though, but now it has even more appreciation after we've made it out.
So I do feel like that is one of the things that hurts personal trainers a lot, especially when they first get started, because it is an industry that has a notoriously high churn. There's a lot of trainers that come in, they're there for 3 to 6 months, they're just barely scraping by, and then they go off onto their next adventure that's normally totally unrelated. Same thing in the car business. A lot of people come in, they try to sell cars for a while, they realize it's hard, and they move on. And you've been a personal trainer for, like, was it like 13 years full-time?
Yeah, 12, something
12,
like that.
whatever it was, and then obviously part-time now that you're in the mortgage industry. What do you equate that success to in the longevity of your career there? Because that is kind of an outlier. There aren't a lot of personal trainers that hit that, honestly, 2-year mark, but
Yeah.
especially that 10-year mark.
Yeah, most fail within 1 to 3 years, statistically speaking. But accountability for myself and perseverance, just continuously doing the same thing over and over again. I mean, that's how you get results. And just perseverance. I would say that's the biggest thing is people go into things like this, and probably the car business, and I know they do it with real estate. They just want to make a quick buck. They think it's a simple sell. And then when they realize that it's difficult, they look for, the grass is greener on the other side kind of thing. And they jump to the next thing, and then they jump to the next thing. And those are the people, we're getting further and further away, going back to high school. We're getting further away from high school. We're in our 30s now, most of us, and you start to see those types of people stagnant because they won't stick with something long enough. There's nothing wrong with figuring it out as you go, but I think what we're talking about is those people that look for that quick. Like I like to work out. I mean, I can't tell you how many trainers I've interviewed that, why do you want to be a trainer? Because I like to work out. That's the number one. So if you're interviewing,
I like to work out, but I'm not going to be a trainer. I promise you that.
Yeah, if you want to be a trainer, do not say that in an interview. Do not say you like to work out. Do not say fitness changed your life. Do not say you want to share fitness with people. That's not good.
Those are all the
Am I
cliche
right?
answers.
Am I right?
That was like the
100%.
3 top things on Google.
That's like slide the resume out of the way because
Yeah.
that's not. I mean, that's cool, but
And that's on
you're not going to
every
last.
other resume in the stack.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
One thing I was thinking is what do you think has changed from, I know with selling yourself as a trainer, and you had a lot of individuals coming in actively looking for being trained. How is that correlated over to home loans, and how do you think selling for home loans and trying to find business for home loans, how are you attacking that moving forward?
I would say most of the people don't come in looking for training. First of all, I mean, Ricky can attest to that. People don't. They may think they might have an idea of they need it or that they don't need it.
Yeah.
How many times have you told, I don't need that.
So
I don't
often.
need this. And you end up just showing them what you can do for them as a service, and you end up selling yourself. Mortgages, it's not really the same thing, just in a sense that with fitness, yes, people need it, but you don't need it to survive. You may need it to feel better, look better, all that, the stuff that does matter. But with mortgages, they need you.
Yeah.
They need you. So I think it's helped me a lot building those relationships in training because they see the people that trust me. They see the relationships I've developed over the years, and they need that product. They need a mortgage, and they know they can trust me.
And I'd imagine your network is huge too. You probably know a lot of people. If there's people running around with Ammon Dorsey shirts on, a lot of other people are going to see that too. So even if they don't know you that personally, they've at least seen you at the gym, whichever gym it might have been, or know somebody that's been trained by you and stuff like that. And that plays a really big deal too.
Yeah, I mean, the reason I did the whole shirt thing was I have a unique name, and it's right there on the front, so people see it. It's a top of mind kind of thing.
We should have brought a shirt in to show it.
I know.
Yeah.
Like that was the one thing we forgot.
Lift heavy pet dogs.
Yeah. I like your shirts.
I appreciate it.
They're very.
You never bought one though, so it's cool.
Oof.
Oh, ooh, put me on the hot seat on the podcast.
Shut the cameras off.
How do you know I don't have one?
It's true.
What if I ran upstairs and I had one?
It'd be kind of awkward.
That
'cause
would
I didn't
be.
sell you one.
Then
Then it's like, where'd you get it from? Did you steal it?
This
Maybe-
is my
or do you,
nighttime
like,
shirt.
maybe I bought
sleep
it.
in this.
maybe I bought it on the secondary market. Like maybe they're pulling way more money.
They're
on the
limited
second-
edition.
Supreme.
Yeah, I wanted a first edition that no one else had, so I paid more money on the secondary
There
market.
you go.
You don't know.
Bought it straight off of somebody at the gym.
So in the training side, I know that we have a lot of people that Ricky knows, myself, Dre, everyone here, that is in that space also. So you acquire, from being in that for so long, you acquire leads, things like that. What would you say your most effective way of sales, acquiring leads, everything like that was in the training space?
The first thing that comes to mind, I hate being put on the spot. I know I'm being put on the spot.
I feel like I'm just,
on a podcast.
I feel like
but
when you're like, I feel like when Ricky's talking to you, it's like, and then it's like, right, and I'm like, bam.
right to me. So leads, with the gym, it's different. You have new members signing up. You get in front of them, the typical sales process. And then the biggest thing that's been for me is Facebook. Obviously you guys, this is a marketing show, but I just did it organically, and a friend requested my clients and asked people to like my page and leave reviews and just actively build that. You can't just assume people are going to like it and comment, and you ask for the business, if you will, and that allows you to really showcase your true personality, and people give candid reviews and things like that. So I'd say social media and just obviously leads from the gym itself is.
Yeah, and I think that leads into social media presence as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
And when we stepped into this, we stepped in, the two of us, as car dealership background. We're going to run car dealerships. That's what we're going to do. And we found out very quickly that correlates across all platforms of any business. And a lot of people just don't have that presence out there. And I think you, as an individual of everything you've done, you are very active on social media, staying 2 steps ahead of everyone with, you're running TikToks every day. You're doing all this other stuff that no one else is doing. And when you're doing those things, you're putting yourself 10 steps ahead of the next person 12 months from now. A lot of times people struggle looking at that future of what they're doing, and that social media is what's building that platform. And you did it with training, and subconsciously you did the exact same thing with home loans. And that's why you're getting the traction that you are. I'm watching from an outside in why you're getting that traction so well. And it's because all those people that used you for training, all those people that followed you, all those people that trusted you, now all of a sudden you have your own pool of customers that you organically generated by yourself. It's crazy when we watch it that people do it without even knowing that they're doing it. And it's very cool when you watch it all happen in an organic way.
Well, it's funny you say that, because I was thinking about that the other day, that I use those platforms with videos and posts because there's training. The human body is amazing, and there's so much research, and everyone has these goals, and unless you actually are able to get in front of someone that can spit out all that information that applies to them and the knowledge, there's just too much out there to Google and YouTube.
Oh, 100%.
So I realized, like you just said, mistakenly, like as I was doing mortgage stuff, that I'm just trying to let people know that this information is out there and that I'm a trusted source, and it works.
I think a lot of people's misconception, which, I'm guilty of this a lot of times, is when you're speaking to people on something that you do every day, that they have the same knowledge that you do.
Oh, yeah.
And I see it across every company that we work with. People are like, I just don't understand why people don't get this. And it's like, they don't do this every day.
Yeah.
And
I
it's
have to
taken,
remind myself of that too.
in the car business, it was bad. We sat there financing car deals every single day, doing all this stuff. It was just like second nature to us. We understood those things. And then you would have people come in that are like, I mean, as green as they come, they don't know any of these things. And I'm like, how do you not understand rates? How do you not understand all this stuff? I'm like, and we've just been groomed up since we were children about all this stuff and these facts and different things of how home loans work, how auto loans work, how all these different types of financing works. And I think just that assumption side of it, when sometimes it's you have to dumb it way back. I don't even want to say dumb it down. It's
No, just
simplify
simplify.
it.
Just simplify.
When you simplify it down to the basics, that, hey, what was I like before I knew any of this?
And you know what that is right there? Humility.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably in my opinion, the biggest contributor to someone's success is their humility, because you can never know too much. It's just impossible to know everything. And the instant you stop, or you think you know everything, or you think you know more than other people, you stop progressing. So like I've always said, that a trainer that doesn't take ideas or doesn't continue to do research, they're not a very good trainer. There will be a time.
That's why you've
when
been
it
successful
stops.
in home loans, though.
No, absolutely.
Because
It's humility.
That correlates to marketing. That correlates to home loans. That correlates to anything that you're doing.
To me, that just comes down to being just a good human.
Yeah.
Because if you're not humble, you think you're better than everybody else. I mean, simplistically saying it.
I'm a little iffy on that, because I don't think that there's people that they think they're better than someone on that knowledge. But I think there's some people that take for granted they don't think knowledge is going to change.
Right. Maybe thinking better wasn't the correct term, but I would say it comes across that way.
It definitely
It comes across as arrogant, and you don't want to work with
100%.
arrogant.
And I think that the market is ever evolving and changing,
Absolutely.
and every single, just in rates in the last 4 weeks. I mean, most people don't understand what's happening there. And when I say most people, I'd say like 99% of population probably. Unless you're doing home loans or you're actually purchasing a home right now, you don't know what's happening there.
I do get a weekly call telling me about the rates. I don't know
From
why.
Harry Habib.
Yeah, I don't know why I'm still getting the phone call, but I do get a phone call. They're like, hey, just so you know, if you want to lock your rate today, you should lock it right now.
So you don't feel lonely.
I'm like, I always count on that one phone call each week.
But that's always evolving, being up with everything that we do. As a company, all day today we were listening to training on what marketing looks like right now. You're doing the exact same thing. The great thing about celebrity, and why our dad picked celebrity from when we first talked to him about the whole thing, was them staying up with everything all the time. The knowledge base that comes with it. You guys have all these extra tools, but you are very good about taking those tools and relaying them onto your clientele and everyone that knows you. So you have became that education, that knowledge base.
Edu marketing.
It's a thing.
It's a cool word.
That is a cool word.
I think we should. Can we get that in Urban
You
Dictionary?
can edit that out and steal
I
it.
want to edit that at the bottom of that. I want to trademark it. That's ours.
It's yours.
We
You
can
have it.
copyright Ammon on it. Be like, he said our word.
Yep. So on the mortgage side, I know we've talked a lot about the fitness side, things like that. You are transitioning out of that, correct?
Yes.
So what is that transition out? I know you've got a lot of traction in the home loan space. I know that's where you want to go. But I also know that when we have talked to you, that you have clientele that works with you in the fitness space, has worked with you for 5+ years.
Yeah, I have a couple of people that have worked with me since like day one,
That's incredible.
which I'm almost surprised of.
You have
I used to always tell my early trainers, there's a reason why none of my very beginning clients still work with me. And that's just a humility thing. Like, you should be getting better, and you should. It's okay to make mistakes, because as long as you learn from them, that's how you get better.
If people that you're working with understand that you make mistakes and you're very upfront about that,
Oh, yeah.
they're okay with it. You're evolving just like they're evolving. Everyone's always evolving. And the people that, even as you scale up, no matter what scale you get to, people are always still evolving. And I think on that forefront, when you have transitioned over, what did those people say that you have worked with since day one think about you transitioning over to home loans and not?
They've been supportive. I mean, it's not something I've really thought about, that question, but they've definitely been supportive. There's a few of them that have made comments about, you're not just going to leave me high and dry.
I've been with you for 13 years. You better
I don't.
believe me.
Don't you
I don't
love
think you
me?
leave. I don't think you leave anyone high and dry.
No, I would never do that. But yeah, it's very humbling. I don't really know what else to say about it, just because when I think about where I started and how long it's been, and life really does just kind of like go by like that, that I've made decisions that have led me to where I am now, and being true to myself and being myself and being that chameleon that people can relate to has just, catapulted me to that. And that wasn't really a good answer, but I think you guys got the gist of it.
I feel like that's got to be so cool from some of those clients' perspective. Like, obviously, I don't know what you're like when you're first starting training,
I don't either.
but when somebody just starts anything, I mean, they're not going to be as good as they are 13 years later,
Yeah.
or at least hopefully they're getting better
I would
through
hope
those
so.
through those years. So it's got to be cool from their perspective to see the way that you've changed as their coach and their trainer,
Yeah.
and how much better that process has gotten.
Yeah, you guys are giving me perspectives I haven't really thought about.
That's what we're here for.
See, we sent you this list of questions, and we just went totally rogue. We just went
I feel like I'm
full
in
rogue on the whole thing.
counseling. I pay you guys when we're done.
We'll
It's only
invoice you later.
125 an hour. We should be going for 4 hours.
Cool.
Yeah, should be able to pay for the bottle of Tito's before by the time we're done. But with that, you have a family. Your family has evolved over time with the whole thing, and I know you have a huge support system behind you, and I know you've acquired those people along the way too. And I feel like with the training side, with all that into the mortgage side, you have like the biggest corner of cheerleaders possible.
I appreciate that.
I feel like you have a family that's backing you. I mean, our dad thinks the world of you, and all of us, everything like that. And I mean, watching
I just
it,
met you, but you seem cool, so
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
we paid him to say that. That was
I'm actually going to cut that reel and I'm going to put that on my Instagram just so people follow me.
I think he's cool. I think he's cool. That's
I'm going to run that as my own ad.
little boomerang.
yeah, it's just gonna be like very fast, just like a
Swoop.
But with all that, like transitioning, things like that, there comes challenges. What would you say the challenges were that kind of looked like on that? I won't even say you're in full transition yet either. I feel like you're still on very much both forefronts.
I would say I'm on full transition.
Oh, never mind.
The only reason I say that is because when I went to Genesis, I took a management position, and I let that go, I don't know, a month ago. Told them I was just going to be doing part-time. So there's no ties there anymore, except to, the commitments I've made to people. But the biggest challenge is just not knowing where the money's going to come from. I think anybody with a family can relate to that, in a sense that I'm giving up a salary to do this, training, full-time commission, and then I'm going to give up training to go over to a financial side of something, and in hopes of building that trust in the same way.
Yeah, and I think that almost becomes like the coolest thing, because I don't have a family, I don't have a child in your aspect.
You got dogs.
I have 2 dogs that rely on me to
exactly.
make sure they have a backyard to go to the bathroom and stuff like that. I don't have children, though, on your aspect, but I understand stepping out on something that there's an unsure possibility of. And there comes that self-confidence of, you know what, I'm going to make it happen. And
You have to.
You have to. There's not a...
You cannot fail.
Right.
That's
No pressure.
That's the thing I kind of think is crazy on how all these people are like, fail like 400 times. You make it the 401st time, you're golden, like whatever it is. Like, I don't look as failing as an option. It's not.
If it happens, it happens, but I'm not expecting it.
Yeah, definitely don't plan on it.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people,
Self-fulfilling prophecy at that
most
point.
people
Exactly.
take that step as right out the gate, they already have like a plan B of when failure happens. And I think that's the worst thing, is the second they take that step, they're thinking, what's plan B?
Grass is greener on the other side.
But that's the easy route. Like, I stepped into what we're doing now, and people are like, well, what if it doesn't work out? I'm like, I never even thought of that.
I remember when I first started training your dad, you were still working at TDR, and
Yeah.
he told me how you wanted all these drones and shit. I remember this conversation that we had at Aurora, and he was genuinely impressed by what you put out. And so, I mean, that's just an example of you seeing a niche somewhere and how you could do it and succeed at it and took that leap. And
I was the medium between the two that I got an earful from Dane. I got an earful from my dad. And then I'm like, you both need to come to an agreement. I'm like, because right now, I'm like, what you guys are doing, I'm like, I get you don't think Dane's right on wanting the drones and try to do videos of the vehicles. I get it. And then I go tell Dane back, Dad's wrong. I know you want to do that. And then I'm sitting there, I'm like, I'm like, what's the worst case scenario, Dad? I'm like, it doesn't work, what? What's 2 drones and a camera?
Which,
and
to
then
be
I'm
fair,
like-
I crashed the first drone in the showroom into the ceiling, broke the whole thing.
did he see it happen?
No, but there's a bunch of customers there. And I didn't know. I didn't think that was just a terrible
That's why
idea.
I said 2 drones.
So that's why there was multiples, because I totally destroyed the first one within like 3 minutes of having it.
But that's where after it was basically we were selling him going like, I'm like, what if it does work? What if this produces another 5, 10, 20 sales a month?
Yeah, and
What's that look like?
And you know, from a father's perspective, looking back, who cares if it didn't get any business? Look what it was able to.
And that's
provide
where
you.
I am always so thankful for the path that has led to here, that there was days that we didn't enjoy the work hours that we put in, that all the additional things that came with it. And it seemed bad at that point, but now you look back on it. And same thing with our dad. There was times in high school that I hated him making us mow 20 acres every week. Hated it. Absolutely. It was like the worst thing in the whole entire world. But now we look back on it, I was like, I am so thankful that he did what he did at that point, because that is what has led us to do what we've done today. And we meet other people our age, things like that, and they're like, well, we've never done that kind of work. And I'm like,
You want me to work 40 hours?
they're like, what? I'm
That-
like,
how about 20? I'm
Yeah.
like, what?
but it's just crazy how the whole thing comes full circle
It is.
on that. And I think in your space where you've worked all these hours, you've done all these things, when you step into something like this, that you're like, I can really help somebody and really utilize my 40 hours instead of 80 and do more for people in those 40, give them such a great value and benefit that's why I'm getting the money I'm getting from that.
Yeah, I mean, when I was at Aurora, because it was commission only, it was just grind. And I was doing 96 to 100 hours a week.
You were always. That's why I said that you
It
were.
was stupid.
I understood.
Really though, looking back, it was dumb.
I look at Norterra.
It's a lot of
I
hours.
look at that gym as like all I remember from that gym was you.
I used to fall asleep in the break room, like sitting up.
Yeah.
I'd get there at 5. At 4, I used to have clients at either 4:30 or 5 a.m. And then my last client for the day was 7 p.m.
Yeah.
Monday through Friday.
Yeah, I don't know.
I would not suggest it, but doing that is what gave me the work ethic, or built my work ethic, and built those relationships, and going back to accountability, knowing that I was going to be there and that they could count on me.
So, what do you think your biggest thing and the reason why you're transitioning? What do you think the biggest change would be and why you're doing it?
Well, so our daughter has special needs. I'm sure all you guys have seen that.
Your daughter's really like the cutest thing ever.
She
really
I
is.
like. It is probably the most like bright shining thing I see on social media weekly. Personally, I hate social media, even though we use so much of it.
Edit that out.
When I see your
Sephora,
posts and stuff, it
yeah.
is like just phenomenal.
I appreciate that. Yeah, she has a special effect on people. But she's 7 now, and she's completely nonverbal. We still have to feed her. She's still in diapers, all that stuff. And I think it was 29 when I was talking to your dad about lending. And I wasn't even looking for anything. Like, I was just grinding it out and doing my thing. And like, your dad came at the right time, and I knew that's what I should do. I'm sure you guys have experienced that sometime in your life where you just kind of you just kind of go with it. And that's the biggest thing is with training, even if you do online training, you're still limited by hours. how many hours can you put in? That's what people are going to pay for. And with lending, you can build a team and sell mortgages and blah, 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 and build wealth. And it was like when I turned 30, it was a real realization, like, I have a daughter that needs to be taken care of indefinitely. And so I need to build up wealth, simplistically speaking, to be able to accomplish that. So that was really the biggest push, was my family and money.
Yeah.
I hate to say money, but that's what it is.
And that comes down to that. I mean, money is that evil that we all face, no matter what. And as much as you want it to be a factor in anything, it is a factor. That I think it becomes a factor, but then also, like, I'm very firm with everyone down here that time is more of a factor. That time is the most valuable thing that you have. You cannot put dollars and cents on any amount of time. And I think we've had a lot of discussions about this, and I mean, it's a discussion probably month over month, that there's a lot of people out there that are like, what was it? Was it Andy Elliott or whoever said the deal on it, that he goes, do you think $1 million is a lot of money?
Depends.
So if I said, so most people like would say, yeah, that's a lot of money. That would change my life. So if I told you I'd give you $1 million, you wouldn't wake up tomorrow, would you take it?
No.
No. If I gave you $1 million and said you wouldn't wake up next month, would you take it?
No.
If I gave you $1 million and said you wouldn't wake up next year, would you take it?
Maybe. No.
There is a
Yeah,
number
but-
somewhere there. It's like, well, I mean, 100
But-
years, that's kind of hard to picture.
But most of the time, there's some sort of like a time frame. Most people wouldn't put any amount of time frame on $1 million. But most people, $1 million is a lot of money. So it's just crazy that when you start looking at that on like dollars and cents to time we came to the same thing, that we were in the car business. We were working 80 plus hours a week. We're doing all this stuff. And it was only day I really had off was Sunday. I had 1 day out of 7 days.
That was your only
I've
day to
been
spend
there.
money.
I've been there.
It was a terrible way to live. And I mean, it was jeopardizing relationships with my girlfriend. My dad and I butted heads week over week on stuff that we've had a great relationship our whole entire lives. We had 24 months pretty much in the car business that we just butted heads nonstop. And it became to the point where we talk 7 days a week, all the time. I talked to him every day. We'd be at the dealership and I drove home. I'm like, you know what? I don't want to talk to him. Like, we've been arguing all day. I don't want to talk to him. And it's a terrible place to be.
It's a rat race.
It is. And our relationship has never been better. My dad's and my relationship has never been better. My girlfriend and I relationship has never been better. But I'm also in control of time. I let him control his time. I let Ricky control his time. Lauren controls her time. Dalton controls his time.
Not Dalton.
Maybe not Dalton. No, but it's
He's glaring. If you could see him through the camera, he's glaring.
if you could see him through the camera right now, I wish we had a camera on him right now. No, but everyone controls their time. That I'm not a controller of time. We have a goal of what we're doing as a company, but people also have lives.
It's the movement, man. That's the millennial movement now.
But it's also
People
something.
you're figuring it out.
But it's you're a person. You're a person. You're a person. Everyone's a person.
Mm-hmm.
And I think people have lost sight of that and have went so much to their working to live and live to work. And that is just a part that is there, and let it be there, but also live your life.
Absolutely.
And I don't think I've ever texted somebody in the morning about where they're at, anything like that. Like, we don't have set hours of when we're here or when we're gone. And I think you experience the exact same thing with doing home loans. And I think that's why you like it so much, because you're not there at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, I mean, before it was making appointments with people, and I would always keep those appointments. But now I still have work to do, but I've built that work ethic, so I'm still going to get it done. I just don't have time constraints.
The time constraint is huge.
Yeah.
I'm perfectly fine with getting work done at 11 o'clock at night to midnight, whatever it is. But if I'd rather work maybe on Tuesday till midnight and be able to go golf on.
Yeah, if you want to take her out to lunch or something, you can. Like, I got to ask the boss if I can take off.
I had 3 years of not taking my girlfriend out to lunch at all.
Exactly. So I hope you're doing it now.
I do.
Well,
Like-
I gotta swing by and see you before you even came over.
That's the real reason you come by.
Yeah.
Yep, to see you,
But
not my girlfriend. See you, Ammon.
Yeah.
I came by and I'm sitting there. I'm like, hey, how's everyone doing? And even Samantha, she's like, what are you doing? I was like,
Drinking a beer.
yeah,
Drink a
figured
beer,
I'd
drive
stop
by,
by.
see what's happening.
Yeah. Everyone's still alive? Cool. All right. Later. Great chat. Glad I came by. No, but it's something we're touching on that we experience things, and I'm not saying there are people that have been in the industry and they make that work-life relationship work, and great. But it was very hard at a young age when you see everyone you know working 40 hours a week, they're all hanging out and everything, and you lose a lot of friendships. And we probably all have. It's like, hey, I got to be at work. I can't make that. I missed a family vacation because I couldn't leave work. And that was kind of my point where I'm like, that's a memory I would have for the rest of my life.
Yeah, and I think to hit on your point, you only see what people show you. So you can think that people have it figured out. You can think that,
No.
you know, I can say that just looking at people's financials, you can look like you have money. You can look like you manage your time. You can look like you have the great family life, but only you know the answer to that.
And that's when
Do you want to do something about it, or do you want to just keep looking cool?
when we were at the dealership, I think most anybody at our age would have traded us spots for what we had. They were seeing these nice houses that we were able to buy. They were seeing all these like
We were very fortunate. Don't get us wrong on that.
very
aspect.
fortunate in being able to step straight out of college into the positions that we stepped into. And that goes straight back to thanks to our dad on setting all that up. I am never going to discount any of that. Most people would trade that in a heartbeat of what they thought materialistic item-wise what we had. Houses, things like that. But when I was buying a house, it wasn't for me. It was for my girlfriend. It was what she wanted at the time. I could have cared less. I'm like, you throw me in a tent, as long as I don't get dripped on in the middle of the night, I'm cool.
You may as well have been in a tent when you're how late did you get off work?
I mean, there was nights that we were leaving the dealership at midnight most nights. And the great thing was Buffalo Wild Wings was serving till 1 o'clock in the morning. So I'd have Buffalo Wild Wings delivered to my house, and I'd come home, I'd eat downstairs by myself, and I would go up, get in bed, and then I would get up at 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, head straight back to work.
That's no way to live.
No. And at that point, most people were thinking like, oh, we'd party and we'd do stuff maybe one day a week.
Saturday night.
Saturday night was the night we did it. And then it was just to do the whole thing over again.
Hustle and grind.
And
I lived in an apartment, and that's what it had. Super nice pool. It was a very nice apartment.
You were never there, though.
Way too expensive. And that's what everyone's like, oh, how's the pool? I'm like, never went. Lived there for 13 months, did not go to that pool one time.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's crazy on like when you start seeing that and then you kind of start seeing it from a different side. And
I'd be at the pool right now.
I mean, if I had a family, I would have been 10 times more even prone to jump off that ledge before I did.
Yeah.
And I had to kind of realize it in a relationship status, things like that. Family relationships also were taking a huge toll with what we were doing. And it's something that like you said, you own your time now with what you do, and it's kind of led full circle back into that whole thing.
And especially coming from the personal training world, like that's a direct transaction from your time to a dollar amount. And let's say you took this magical pill where you never had to sleep, you're still only training 24 people a day.
Right.
Most sessions are going to be about an hour, but then you have the time in between, so that number's realistically probably shorter until maybe you train tandem. Well, then it's only 48. And that number, that could get a high number, but it's a direct correlation of you trading your time for money. So then what happens if you twist your ankle and you can't go to work, or you break a leg, or you're sick, or any of those things?
Yeah. I mean, when I was at my peak, if you will, at Aurora, I would do 30-minute an hour sessions, and I was averaging 14 to 17 people a day.
Which is wild,
It's
by the way.
exhausting.
It is.
Mentally exhausting.
It is. That's 14 to 17, because when you're training, you're not just training somebody. You're engaging with them, you're talking to them, and that's 14 to 17 different people you're
It's
engaging
like
with
14 to
a day.
17 hours of therapy.
That's
Because
exactly
as
what
you
it is.
know, working out is about this much of what those conversations entail. I mean, right? You're a
100%.
therapist.
100%.
He'll tell you anything and everything.
Yeah, and especially if you've been working with somebody like a decent amount of time, they're going to know the basics. You don't need to reteach them each time how to do a squat or how to do a bicep curl or whatever it is, but they become your friend and they want to talk to you about whatever it is that's going on in their life. They could be happy, it could be sad, but then you're going from session to session and having to, like you were saying, be that chameleon and kind of match their energy.
There's
and
no energy left at home.
That's exhausting.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing is I feel like I'm not working as much. I mean, I'm not, but you know what I mean. Mentally, it's just not as taxing. And you know, when you train somebody, you're really seeing most of them at their most vulnerable point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And relating that to mortgages, I mean, when you do someone's mortgage and you run their credit and everything, they're financially naked in front of you. And so that the kind of how you approach that subject and approach that matches.
Yeah, and that's, I think, also a lot of what our dad has taught us, that over the years, that no matter what people's credit is, what people's financial status is, anything like that, none of that stuff changes a person being a person. And I think that's what you're really good at and why you've seen success in that space is you can see that person that maybe is a little credit challenged. They weren't taught any of that stuff. They say, hey, I didn't pay that credit card bill like
The last 12 times.
yeah. Or I have a credit card that's maxed out and I pay it every single time. Most people don't understand that hurts their credit.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of simple things on there that people aren't even
simple to us.
Simple
Yes.
to us that they're doing absolutely nothing wrong and realistically what we've all been taught. But actually it's hurting credit, it's hurting other things, and you become that education space, that
A safe place.
safe place. Educating people on what they need to do to actually help them go to that next level. And then that's how you get that, I want to say brand loyalty, and you become your own brand, the Ammon Dorsey brand. And if that's doing home loans, if that's training, whatever it's doing, you get that loyalty to you.
Yeah.
And we're trying to create the exact same thing. We want that loyalty to us. Marketing wise, that anybody has any question A to Z, it's to us. And it's, I mean, it goes 1 and 2 together on with what you're doing. That when you start building that relationship with anybody, you just become that person. That today I was on the phone. Yeah, you're that go-to person. I was on the phone today with 5 times with somebody that was looking to buy a car from a dealership that we work with. I haven't sold a car in years.
I got called on pricing today. They're like, what do you think this should be priced at? I'm like,
Let me look it up real fast.
yep.
Yeah.
I told them, I'm like, I can get back to you tomorrow on it. I'm like, I'm not just going to throw a price off the top of my head. I'm like, we both know this last year's been a little different. So I'm like, I can't give you an accurate number right now. But I'm like, I can have an accurate number to you in the morning.
Honesty.
Yeah. And that's, people don't like being lied to. And I think so many people in the business space today just lie to people just so fast.
I think
And the person on the other side knows you're lying.
it all comes back to being yourself.
Yeah.
If you don't know something, you don't know something. I mean, everybody learns something at some point. So if you don't know it, you don't know it.
Yeah.
Now.
And be honest with someone and say, hey, I would rather somebody tell me, hey, I'm going to figure it out, than tell me that they know something and not actually know it. And just give me some bullshit answer that's not true. And that, I think, especially if somebody's doing my home loan.
Yeah.
I mean, that's 10 times worse. If you're training me, you're like, hey, you know what? Like, doing these knee push-ups or something might help. Like, I don't know, like, whatever it is. If you're doing my home loan, you better know your shit.
Yeah,
Like,
that's true.
yeah.
Definitely some higher
ripped
stakes.
my pec, bro.
But, yeah, I think it kind of correlates across to all of it. But,
Ammon, I've got an interesting question for you.
Let's hear it.
I'm hoping you'll find it interesting, and I'm going to caveat it, okay? So I'm going to ask the question of if you could talk to your 20-year-old self and give them some type of advice to be the most successful, but with the caveat of it's like an alternate universe and you're not changing your current reality, okay? Because obviously you love the position that you're at right now, and I'm sure you wouldn't want to go changing stuff and then you wouldn't necessarily learn the lessons that you've learned throughout. But what would you say to 20-year-old Ammon on being successful, both as a trainer and kind of just in life?
Trust the process and just be true to yourself. I mean, it's as simple as that. Being true to yourself is just, I keep saying it, but just be yourself. Don't try to be something that you're not.
Yeah.
Because people can see right through that, and you're not going to build trust that way. People need to know you, like you, and trust you to do business with you. And if you're lacking any of those, you're not going to get anywhere.
I think that's a great answer, especially the trust your process part, because just like we were talking about earlier, there's so many people that they start something new, they think it's going to be amazing, but they forget to factor in that you're not going to know everything just from the start. And that's okay. You're going to learn as you go on, and then you're going to start to get more competent and more confident, and then you're going to start to succeed even more, but you're not going to have that right out the gate.
Right. You have to give yourself a chance to grow and to learn and apply those things.
Exactly. I think Seth Godin had a book called The Dip, and they talk about when you first get into something, you're so excited, and that excitement, it could last for a few weeks, it could last for months, whatever it is, but eventually that's going to start to dip. And in that dip is where a lot of people fail, whether it's a new business or they're just in a new industry or whatever it is. But the people that succeed are the ones that have the trust in the process and everything like that to make it out of that dip.
Right.
And that's when you really start to be successful.
Yeah, it goes back to perseverance. There's going to be lulls. Nothing is ever linear. You can relate that back to fitness, and you're not just going to continue to lose weight or gain strength. It's always going to be linear. And
could you imagine if it was? Wouldn't that be so cool?
Everyone would look how they want to
all
look,
the
and
time.
we'd be moving thousands of pounds, and it's just not.
Ricky
not
is moving
practical.
thousands of pounds.
Not
I
quite.
believe that.
Not quite.
Can we just get to the fact where Ammon said he couldn't bench 220 before we started? Or was it 225?
I think he was lying.
I'm calling BS on
Yeah,
that.
when he just talked
We
about
could have a
don't
follow-up to
lie,
the
and then he's
podcast.
like, oh, I couldn't do it. Just Ammon benching.
Just like a 30-second short of
Yeah,
that.
transition over, and then back to the podcast.
Yeah.
Oh, God, that'd be fun. So, Ammon, if you could go back in time 20 years.
Oh, so you
that
just missed
question.
that. I'm gonna put Dre on the spot here. He just took a bathroom break and he missed that whole conversation that we were having.
Some would say Ricky's a rat for ratting out on that.
The people had to find out somehow.
So I started drinking like a gallon of water every day, and that's like the first time I've had to go to the bathroom on a podcast. So it's
I drank a lot of energy drinks today.
the gallon of water
Not gonna
is
lie.
a little rough on the bathroom breaks.
Maybe we shouldn't have called him out, and we should have just had
I
him
should have
ask
just let
it.
it go.
We should have, and just
Could have come up with another answer, and we could pick which one's better.
That would have been. That's what we need to start doing.
Okay,
from
start
now on.
over.
so. What was
Nah, it's
Ricky's
done.
question
It's
before?
I asked him 20 years ago, or when Ammon was 20, what advice would he give him if he could go back in time in an alternate universe where he wasn't going to change his current situation? Because obviously everything works out for a good reason, and you end up where you're at, and you like where you're at right now, so you don't want to change that. But his answer was trusting the process and knowing that you're not essentially going to know everything from the start.
Yeah, humility.
I think that's very true. That I mean,
allowing people that come into your life to allow them into your life because you don't know what doors are going to open. I mean, I can think back to when I transitioned from Anytime to Norterre. There was one person that called me to work there that I had only met one time because of the people that bought Anytime. And then the reason I went to Genesis, which is where I met your dad at Norterre, and I wouldn't have met him and done loans if it weren't for that. And then when I went to Genesis, the only reason I went to Genesis is because the person that reached out to me, I had only met one time at Anytime Fitness. So if I weren't open to that, not relationship, but open to that idea of someone else,
It's incredible the way that things work out like
it's
that.
crazy. Life is crazy. If you allow it to take you places, it's pretty
the
cool.
world has its own. It has its own destiny for everyone, and I mean, I'm a firm believer, and we talk about it every single day on the doors that open day over day that just come from nowhere. And that's running into Ricky and Lauren and Dalton in college and Dre's buddy Logan. Cody that's here has been here since I knew him in high school. Like, the doors that open and the way everything works out, there's a purpose for all of it.
Absolutely. If you're a good person and you put out good energy, you're going to get it back.
Yeah.
I think your biggest thing is energy. And that's what you can, as you both know, being in the space of lifting, stuff like that, is energy's everything. And that's what, even if you're going into try to pick up a new client stuff, if you're sitting there going, hey, you want me to lift you? Like, you want to work out? Or I would be
you
like,
want to lift me?
Yeah. But it's like going into that. But if like Ricky, every time I saw Ricky in the morning before he even started, he was like, Dre, he's like, didn't see you yesterday. I'm like, bro,
I think he's got to do
call
drugs
me
in the
out.
morning. I think he's got to get out.
See, that's the
at like
thing,
4
though.
o'clock in the morning, do drugs, something.
It's possible.
Possible.
But
I like how Ammon just said, you see? it is
No.
drugs.
No, but really, that I don't have that. That's not my personality. That, most trainers and fitness people have that leveled up personality where they're go, go, go. And that's just not my personality, not my energy. So I'm not going to fake it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be who I am and,
Because
what's up? But I'm not
because the
going to
thing
scream
is,
at you and give you a high five.
if you do that, you could do that for a little
It's
while.
disingenuous.
Eventually the truth's going to come out. Eventually, after you've been training for 5 years and you're not super wiry and everything like
Yeah,
that.
the people that you engaged with that bought into that and work with you because of that, you can't sustain it. And it's not being true to yourself, and they're going to see right through it.
Yeah, but your energy earlier when I came into your office, it was pretty good.
I'm excited to see you.
And then when I walked and scared you when you're getting in the fridge,
Yeah.
I knew it was genuine.
Yeah. I mean, your face was right there, so.
I was like, surprise!
Before we wrap things up, I do want to congratulate Dane. He got his library card today. So we do a quick round of applause.
You guys are in the presence of a mid-continent library card
Are
holder.
you going to learn math?
No, it's actually for LinkedIn has. Today was actually the first day I learned that LinkedIn has a lot of actually videos and stuff on training to further educate yourself on a lot of different stuff. So that was very weird. So today I told him you can actually access all of it with your library card.
Digital library card.
It was crazy, and today I was like, I'm going to the library, and they're all like looking at me
Nerd.
weird. Yeah.
They're like, are you going to go study? Or?
Crazy thing is, I go to the library, run into people I know. They're like, hey, what are you doing here? I'm like,
Working on my master's. Well, a lot of you
But-
probably don't know is Dane's a scientist. Did you know that?
In what aspect?
Exactly. He's a
Actually a
geologist.
scientist.
Like the literal definition.
Like, literally, he gets a discount on his insurance.
So I have a degree in geology and minor in physics, and
So he should know
all I
numbers.
really do is get a discount on my insurance.
So Dalton over there does too.
Also, Dalton. So
If I have any rock questions, I'll come to you.
I would prefer put in a nice typed out email, send it over my way, and we'll get on it.
You should have it back in 5 to 7 business days.
But I think that was a phenomenal podcast with Ammon. I
Appreciate it.
very much appreciate you being here and giving us your insights on. I feel like it was like two business forefronts of the
I
fitness
don't really
side
know
of-
what I said during that time, so I hope it sounded good.
It was good.
I don't know. We were here for like an hour or
was-
something. So
I was here. I was present.
Yeah, we were all present, having some drinks, everything. We got the knowledge that we were here to get. So that's the M3 podcast. Thank you for being here, and join us again next week for what is to come.
And if you know anyone looking to buy, sell, or refinance,
Oh, yeah. Yep. Buy, sell, refinance, anything. We're going to plug it below. I'm really bad at this. We're working on
he's
this.
pointing.
I'm pointing because there's going to be links below. So that is the M3 podcast. I can't say Key Ricky because Ricky is here. So I'm going to say Key Lauren over there for the M3 podcast.
Thanks for listening to the M3 Podcast. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. Want to learn more? Check us out on Instagram at Moss Marketing Group, on Facebook at Moss Marketing 58, or on our website at mossmarketinggroup.com.